Board of Trustees of Socorro ISD is being held on April 26, 2021. The time is 6:02. If everyone will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you. Item 3, new business A. Accept the resignation of Paul E. Garcia from Board of Trustees. In your folders, everyone received a copy of Mr. Garcia's resignation.
Motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Guerra and a second by Mr. Gondeta. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. And item 3B, we do have a speaker to this item. We greatly appreciate those individuals who have requested to speak to the board in regard to a specific agenda item. We are bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda, and therefore must limit presentations to 5 minutes. Please respect the rights of others in your presentation. By law, the board cannot take action upon or discuss any item which is not posted on tonight's agenda, but we will give all presentations our serious consideration. Thank you. And we'll proceed. We have one speaker, Tommy Hill.
Testing. Okay, good. On this agenda, I do believe that we should set up a special election. That's the only fair thing to do. If we set someone in place right away, that's not fair. They didn't go through the process. I'm just saying that I believe, and I think a lot of other people believe the same thing. The only fair thing is to set up an election to cover the spot that's there. I hope you guys understand that just by appointing one doesn't look good on this board. If you set up a fair election, that's the right thing to do. Please respect the procedures and do that. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And item 3B, discussion and possible action regarding process for filling vacancy on the Board of Trustees. I have included in the folder that Claudia has given y'all, it's an overview of school board member resignations from TASB. And it's a question and answer about the process that we go through. There are options for filling a vacancy. We can fill the vacancy by appointment until the next trustee election. We can order a special election to fill the vacancy for the unexpired term, or under certain circumstances, leave the position vacant until the next general election. Now, under those certain circumstances, ours does not fall in that, so we can't leave it vacant. I'm going to ask Mr. Blanco to guide us through what our options are.
Thank you, Board President Nada, members of the board, Dr. Espinosa, Steve Blanco, legal counsel for the district. If you all have any specific questions, just let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. Ms. Nahada just laid out the two existing options for the board. One is to fill it, the vacancy that now exists for Mr. Garcia, by appointment. That would mean that the board discusses a process to either accept applications or make nominations to fill the spot, and then you amongst yourselves vote and choose a person to fill that position. The other option is to order a special election to fill the vacancy. That election would have to be in November. The law provides that the vacancy must be filled within 180 days from the date of the resignation. There is an exception to that because obviously the November election is more than 180 days from the date of Mr. Garcia's resignation. The Attorney General has given an opinion on that, and you can order that in November, even though it's outside the 180 days. That's up to the board to decide. If you do that, you'll have to contract with the county, go through the regular election processes, and then hold the special election in November, allowing people who are interested to apply for and run for that position. Those are your two basic options. Now, the process that you use to do that is for you all to discuss tonight. That's why we're here. Decide which method you want to use, and if you choose a method, set the time parameters for the process that you want to put in place. Does anyone have any specific questions?
President Nahara, I've got a question.
Yes, Ms. Rodriguez.
I know this is not the first time that we've had a resignation on the board. As a matter of fact, when I first thought about running for the board, it was by appointment. The person who was in the seat, the incumbent, moved out of the area. What has been the typical process? Because I know at that time it was an appointment and you had to submit a letter of interest, you had to go through a board interview, that kind of stuff. And again, I know prior to that, because I worked in the district, we I think had another person who left the board, and I know in the district that I work in, they followed the same process. It was an appointment until the next election. So do we have any information as to what that's been? What's been the standard practice here in SISD?
That was before my time representing the district, but I do understand that one prior vacancy was filled by an appointment. Maybe some of the other members that have been here longer.
It's always been a by appointment. Been by appointment.
And from what I understand, we open it for applications, and those interested apply, and then the board interviews those applicants, and then the board votes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's one process. I mean, I can tell you that in my experience, districts who have had vacancies have followed a standard process. It's to set a time limit, ask for interested people to submit applications. This happens to be an at-large seat, so it would be open to any resident of the district. Obviously, the people that are going to apply and be considered for an appointment, or if they were to run for an election, have to be qualified for the position. So you have to meet all of the regular qualifications. The board would have to review that. It usually is included as part of the application packet. I shared the last one that I worked on with the administration for Canutillo, set up a series of questions, set a time when you want to conduct interviews. If you want to do that, it's not required by law. But to vet the applicants and make a determination so you can review them and decide who you might want to appoint to fill that position, assuming they're qualified and assuming that the person is willing to accept the nomination to that position, then they would take the office. They have to go through the same oath of office and certificate that's issued to them, and they have to fill out the same forms as an elected official, and until they do that, they're not officially in the seat, but that's the standard process.
Okay.
Steve, may I?
Yes, sir.
Can I speak? Really quick, this may shine some light as to how we feel at this point, the community at large. I do know Mr. Garcia vacated an at-large position, which entails the entire district, not just one district, the entire district. So therefore, that applicant is somebody that has to or can represent the entire district. So I speak on behalf of the entire district as being at large now. I wrote a letter Sunday and had to do, I addressed it to President Nahara, and I'd like to read it at this time. I CC'd our attorney and also our secretary, Mr. Guerra. I would like to go on record to state that I am not in support of the special board meeting scheduled for today. As vice president, being part of the executive board committee, we have met in advance to discuss items to be placed on the agenda. However, for this meeting, we never met to discuss any such item. At this time, I do not believe, as a board, we are prepared to discuss process for filling vacancy on Board of Trustees. who's driving this item? It just doesn't make sense. We have an election May 1st, which is a Saturday. We have 180 days in which to fill this spot, this place. And all of a sudden, here we are today having a special meeting, which, yes, I respect the fact that Mr. Paul Garcia resigned. And yes, you know, it's something, but like I said, what's a hurry? I mean, why call today and not even informing? In fact, Ms. Nahara, with all due respect, she called me and told me that we were going to have a special board meeting. She told me. I wasn't in the conversation at all. Were you, Mr. Blanco, were you involved with that?
I was aware that the board was going to have a special meeting today. The special meeting process requires the board president to call a special meeting. There's not a, it's in policy, there's not a, and I don't know that you all do. I mean, you can tell me, but there's not a consultation provision for calling special meetings. It's up to the board president, assuming you can get a quorum. And if you get a quorum, you can have a special meeting.
So, in other words, that meeting was directed by yourself?
Yes, sir. As I stated in the email that I answered you,
Was there any particular reason why you called it for today? I mean, with the fact is that we have 180 days to fill the spot.
yes, sir. But none of the members sitting on this board have ever gone through a board member resigning. And as I spoke with our attorney about the process, I felt like it was something that the entire board needed to be aware of.
I think this letter that you sent us here, or this letter that we got talking about we probably should have had that in advance so we could have looked at it, studied it, make sure that we make this a decision that is going to be in the best interest of the entire district. Every single constituent, every single person should know that we have a process involved. Not come today after I get a call Thursday saying, oh, we're going to have a special board meeting. We're going to take, Mr. Garcia's resignation. Well, that's fine and dandy, but this is probably something that we should have had ahead of time to understand what our parameters are and how we're going to go about this. Not decide today, we get it shoved down, in a file, and all of a sudden now we're going to say, okay, we're going to move to do this. Now, I have to disagree. I really do. I don't think it's a proper protocol that we're following.
President Nahara, with all due respect.
Let
Mr.
me
Morales,
finish up. Let me
okay,
finish
hang on.
up,
With all due
Secretary
respect, sir,
Guerra. Let me
with
finish.
all due respect, when it's
Let me
official-
finish, Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Guetta,
Okay,
if you'll
go ahead,
wait just
sir.
a moment.
Wait your turn.
Go ahead, sir.
There's really no need to have this process hurried up. We don't have anything pending. We don't have any meetings for the rest of the month. There's nothing pending. There's no business at hand. So we've got till May the 1st, which is Saturday, which is the election. We have 4 incumbents that are favorite to win, and I don't see any reason why we would have to rush this. Why not after the election? I mean, that's only 5 days away. I don't get it. Why are we trying to make this process, shove it down our community's throat? I think it's wrong, and I think I'm going to stand up for that. The last thing, and then I'll let you have the floor. I think it's unfair for candidates running at this point. You all know, the 4 incumbents, yourself included, you spent a great deal of money and time on your campaigns. I know, Mr. Mena know, we were there almost 2 years ago. We spent a lot of time knocking on doors, giving up our Sundays, working every night to talk to constituents, asking for support, and doing everything we had to do within the parameters of a good, clean campaign. And all of a sudden now, we have 3 or 4 more than 4. We have several candidates that are running for these 4 seats that are going to become vacant, or they're up for re-election. Okay? So what my point is that we probably should allow them, all those, some from our district, some from the neighboring district, some from all over our community, interested in running for a position such as a very prestigious position such as board trustee, to allow them an opportunity to at least have an opportunity to apply and wait after the election to see where the chips lie. And allow those individuals, for the fact that they work so hard, along with yourselves, and them, to give them a chance to at least look at where things sit at that point. I rest my case. Thank you.
President Nájera, if I may, it's my understanding that we're just looking at what the process is going to be, right?
The agenda says discussion and possible action regarding process for filling vacancy on Board of Trustees. According to Mr. Blanco, if we wanted to appoint someone tonight, we could. But-
You're correct, you legally could, but you shouldn't.
But
I mean, you should
we've
have a
never done that
process.
within our
Right.
district. And we do.
You also said we shouldn't, is that correct?
Tonight, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that tonight. It's
Yeah,
my understanding the
Yes,
board's
but
not doing
no.
that.
Thank you.
And that is my point, is that we do want to be able to involve our community and give them the opportunity to apply. No one has said that we're appointing someone tonight. And this is to discuss the process. And if the board so chooses to set up a timeline and go forward, that is for the board to decide. Mr. Guerra, you had a comment?
Well, the only thing I was going to say, this is called a special board meeting. So when it's called a special board meeting, Mr. Morales, which you've all called in the past, we can't cancel. The only way the special board meeting is canceled is when we don't have quorum. So when we don't have quorum, then the board meeting is canceled. In the past, when we had a special board meeting, which in the past, Mr. Garcia and you all have called a special board meeting, we never canceled it unless we don't have quorum. So it was a special board meeting. If you don't make the meeting, then it's canceled. But we have quorum. That's all I want to say. It's called special board meeting, sir.
I'm just trying to, I guess, clarify. I believe we did call a special board meeting, but the situation was resolved, and so therefore we never had to meet. So I'm just correcting that. We didn't have a special board meeting in which I drove it or I had anything to do with it. Okay? I want to make sure that goes on the record for the public.
So, President, I have a
Yes, sir.
few
Mr.
questions.
Miller?
So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna do the application process? Are we gonna interview these people, or what are we gonna do? Because I agree with Mr. Morales, we shouldn't rush into things, especially with a position like, in that large position. I think we should take our time and screen the applicants. We shouldn't rush into this. Why the haste?
Mrs. Nájera,
Mr. Gondeta?
Mr. Mena, and Mr. Morales, I appreciate what you're having to say. But I wonder how it would change if one of us or two of us were to lose our seats, how quick it would be to you two to pick somebody really quick. Because 180 days, I'm sorry, to wait till November to hire somebody, not to hire somebody, to choose somebody, now that's being, you're putting a district at danger because you could have a 3-3 split.
I understand that.
Or we could all get together, but I doubt it, okay? Now, for Mr. Morales, I understand what you're saying. I will, but you know what your word means to me now. We know what that means to me.
Well, I understand that too. I
Because
learned
right
some
now, It
things.
doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't, and neither does yours.
Because we-
From
we-
what
we-
I
we-
understand.
We had a conversation. And 15, 20 minutes later, it was a whole different world.
You know what? You want to talk personal, we could talk about that at a different time. We don't talk
Okay.
about it in public.
We
But
are
one thing I
off
will
topic.
say is that you
ahead.
talk about nothing
ahead.
personal,
Go ahead.
and you attack us completely.
Go ahead.
You attack us, but you play this
you in how,
game.
which way?
You play this game.
Gentlemen,
Attack you in
gentlemen,
which way?
no,
I'm just
we
saying
are
about-
off
about-
agenda
about
item.
words.
We are here to discuss the process and whether we want to, what process we
Well,
want to
Ms.
use.
Nájera, I apologize, Ms. Nájera, the process here is who does it benefit more at any given time? That's really what this process is about. Let's be honest. We all know why he left. We all know why he left and why. And let's be honest.
Can
We
you
all-
tell me why? I don't know why you left.
No, you know why.
No,
You
I
know
don't
why,
know.
Mr.
Can you
Morales.
inform
Yes,
the
you
public?
do. No,
I
you
really
know why,
don't.
Mr. Morales, you know
Ms.
why.
Nájera.
I do,
Ms.
right?
Nájera,
Excuse
You
me.
know why.
Ms.
Guys.
Nájera,
I wish I
I'll tell
knew.
you why.
Ms. Nájera,
And,
I
Mr.
would
Guerra,
really love to know.
This
Gentlemen,
is all about
please.
who benefits
Ms. Nájera.
more.
Why would
Mr.
somebody?
Guerra,
Ms. Nájera, I'd like to do what we did in the past. I'd like to go to make a motion and go ahead and put the questions out like we did in the past. I believe each one of us asked a question, because I also applied like Ms. Rodriguez did, and follow the procedure maybe like Dio did. Maybe give the candidates, give them a week, like we've done before in the past, and have them submit it by next week. Have a special board meeting next Tuesday and select the candidate. That's my motion.
Second.
I second it.
Okay. I'm going to repeat to make
Yes,
sure I
ma'am.
have it correct for your motion, Mr. Guerra, is that we do an appointment and therefore open up the application process for interested people to fill the vacancy tomorrow? Is that?
No, by next Tuesday.
But we would
Well, I
open
mean,
it.
open it tomorrow. You're right, open it tomorrow
Okay. And it would be open until next Tuesday?
and select the candidate next Tuesday.
Okay. And the board would submit questions, each board member, or?
Well, I mean, maybe his PR can have the questions for us.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Gondeta and a second.
No, motion
I'm
by Mr.
sorry, a
Motion
motion
by
by
Mr.
Mr. Guerra and a second by Mr. Gondeta, that we open up to interested persons who would like to apply to fill the vacancy on our board. It will be open effective tomorrow. I'm sorry, I don't have that date. 27th, and it will close on,
We'll close on Monday and we make the selection process on Tuesday, on the 3rd,
and we will schedule a special board meeting to interview.
on the 4th.
We will interview, though.
Yes, I make the selection on May the 4th.
We will interview and make a selection on the 4th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Nájera. It's going to be an application? Is it going to be a letter of interest? What is that packet going to look like, I guess is my question.
Letter of interest?
Like,
Mr.
what
Blanco,
what
is
is
there a
the,
specific?
what is the application?
Test. Yeah.
It's up to y'all. You can
Letter of interest?
have people submit letters of interest with their qualifications, a resume, making sure that they're qualified for the position, or you can have the administration or the board can come up with a series of questions. In Kenny-Teo, they came up with a series of questions. The board submitted it to the public information officer, and then it was issued out as an applicant packet. Same as if you picked up a candidate packet. Ms. Cedillo, no meaning to give you additional work, but people would come in that are interested, pick up the packet of information, complete it, and turn it in by the deadline, and then the board would have a meeting to review the packets. If you're talking about interviews, you'd have to schedule interviews, which would require that within that packet of information that be told to the candidates. If somebody's going to apply and be interviewed, they need to be available to interview and be here. Then you interview, and if you want to make the decision after the interviews, you can, or you can do it at a later meeting. That's up to the board.
Okay. Okay.
I know there's a motion on the table. However, do we need to?
Does that need to be amended?
Yeah.
Cover what you just?
Or, I mean, can we say, yes, this is what we're going to do, and then develop the packet? I want to be completely transparent. This is what we're going to do, so everybody understands. So what do we need
I
to do?
think that's a good idea, that you give a list so the administration knows exactly what you want prepared in the packet.
Yeah, so just want to make sure for administration, we'll prepare it. So starting tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll advertise it. We'll work on some questions. Obviously, they have to fill out their name and make sure that they qualify, live in the district. And we'll get that information out. And also in that packet will be, you have to be available next Tuesday to come in to be interviewed. And I believe that's, Mr. Blanco, that interview is done in closed session? Or is
The
it-
interviews of individual candidates was done in closed
Okay.
session. Your deliberations and the selection has to be made in an open session.
Okay, so then we'll get all that information. If you're interested, fill your name out. You got to be available next Tuesday. The board, and it ends, what I heard Mr. Guerra say is it closes next Monday, I guess 5 o'clock. Then Tuesday, we'll gather information. Then they'll come in, board trustees, here's the people who had applied. You go through it, then we interview, the board interviews, and then the board takes action. I think everybody agree? Everybody's, yes?
Steve, does that spell
Yes,
it out for a motion?
that is a basic standard process has been used.
Okay,
So do
and
we need to, I'm sorry, do we need to amend the motion, or do we?
Just the way,
Yeah, I think to be clear, if Mr. Guerra would amend the motion to cover the items that Dr. Espinosa just recited as part of the application process, we have a record of that in the
I made the
minutes.
motion that Dr. Espinosa just covered.
Second.
Okay.
There you go.
And I do want to add one more thing. As Mr. Morales noted, we do have 180 days. So am I correct in saying if we hold interviews or don't get anybody to apply, or for whatever reason we don't make a choice, then we still have time, correct?
Yes, you have the 180-day period to either fill it by appointment or to order and call the special election, which cannot be done currently because of our election calendar until November. So it's a little bit more than 180 days. I want to be clear about that. If for some reason the application process that we've just discussed falls apart, or you interview the folks and you decide as a group that nobody that you've interviewed is either qualified or you believe properly qualified to serve as a member of the board, you don't have to choose them. There's no obligation that the board choose somebody from that list.
Okay. Then I have a motion by Mr. Guerra and a second by Mr. Gunnett. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Blanco.
Thank you.
If there's no further business before this board, we are adjourned. The time is 6:28.